Welcome to Critical Political History, where we talk about critical political history. So, Dazed and Confused has probably been my favorite movie since I first watched it. And anyone who has seen this movie knows the iconic scene at the latter half of the movie where the character Slater goes off about how George Washington believed in aliens and how he smoked weed and how Martha Washington was a hip lady man. And even in the context of the movie, you can kind of tell it's supposed to be stoner conspiracy bullshit gibberish. But today, I want to find out how much of this is actually stoner conspiracy bullshit. I'm recording this live, no script or anything, just reacting as I go because I'm tired, I've had a long day, so fuck you. Also, since I guess I'm a comedic history YouTuber who doesn't show my face, I decided I should probably create some kind of character, so here he is. I spent like 5 minutes on it. Also, I had to use the microphone I usually use for a concert I had, and so I don't have that available with me, so if the audio quality seems worse than it normally is, that's why. Let's get into this.
You guys know what that song's about? It's about aliens. We're the aliens, man. We're the savages. We're the savages.
Wait, man, that song's about that?
Yeah, man, that song's about that, man.
About aliens?
Yeah, man, you didn't know that? This country is founded. It was founded by people who were into aliens, man. George Washington, man, he was in a cult. And the cult was into aliens, man. You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, man, they were way into that type of stuff, man.
Alright, so the whole alien thing, there are kind of documents and things some of the founding fathers wrote that kind of suggest maybe some of the founding fathers believed in aliens, but none of this is concrete, and also this was several centuries ago, so the idea of what an alien is very different of what we perceive of it today. But regardless, George Washington, from what I know of, isn't considered to be in that group of people. And George Washington, we actually don't know much about his personal religious beliefs relating to him, talking about him being in a cult, but to be fair, it's usually the people who are very private about their religious beliefs that have the weirdest religious beliefs. So yeah, fuck it. You know, we'll let Slater have this one. George Washington wasn't a cult that believed in aliens.
George toked weed, man.
Absolutely, George toked weed. Are you kidding me, man? He grew fields of that stuff,
Yeah.
man. That's what I'm talking about.
He
Fields.
grew that shit up in Mount Vernon, man.
Mount Vernon, man, he grew it all over the country, man. He had people growing it all over the country, you know? The whole country back then was getting hot. Let me tell you, man, cause he knew. He was on to something, man. He knew that it would be a good cash crop for the southern states, man.
So if Slater replaced the word weed with the word hemp, most of that would actually be pretty accurate. But George Washington didn't grow hemp for the reason you may think, and many people grew hemp back then, but that's because it was used for industry. It was used to make rope and that sort of stuff. So George Washington, there's no evidence that he really smoked hemp, but there isn't really any evidence proving that he didn't. So George Washington could have smoked hemp, but even if so, hemp back then wouldn't have had enough THC content to really do anything. It'd probably act more as like a CBD. So it's not like even if he was smoking this shit, he was greening out over it. And the cash crop thing is actually very accurate. Back in the 18th century, it was even, some people considered hemp to be a bigger cash crop than tobacco, and everybody knows tobacco was the big cash crop back in the day, so that's funny that that's there, because that's actually pretty true.
So he grew fields of it, man. But you know what? Behind every good man, there's a woman. And that woman was Martha Washington, man. And every day George would come home, she'd have a big fat bowl waiting for him, man, when he'd come in the door, man. She was a hip lady, man. And
Martha Washington was, in fact, a hip lady, man.
she was real cool too. She'd harvest the crops, man. That's what I'm talking about. She'd put in the bushels and stuff and sell it, you know, because they had to, you know, make ends meet and stuff.
So Martha Washington actually was around Mount Vernon a lot, helping out because, you know, George Washington was off, like, you know, leading the fucking revolution. So somebody had to stay back, help the slaves, harvest the crops and whatnot. It's funny that they bring up the making ends meet thing, because most people would be like, oh, well, George Washington's the president. Why the fuck do you have to worry about making ends meet? A lot of the founding fathers, a lot of the beginning presidents actually were kind of poor. And so George Washington wasn't poor like, he had a lot of assets. He had all this property, he had all these crops, but he didn't really have a lot of cash, and neither did a lot of people. So even though he had all this property and stuff, it's not like he could just sell all this property, because there was really no one to buy it. So that's probably my favorite part of this, because I like that they threw that in there, because that's actually very true, and it's a funny nod.
I mean, did you ever look at a dollar bill, man? There's some spooky stuff going on a dollar bill, man. Yeah. I mean, and it's green, too.
Okay, the dollar bill thing just makes me think of, like, kids in elementary school who are trying to press chicks and are like, oh, look at the owl in the top right corner of the dollar bill. Oh, look on the back, it's the Illuminati. So, this part I just kind of blow off, think it's kind of childish and whatever, but it's funny they threw that in there. I dig it. And so that's it. That's the whole rant. I mean, we disproved a little, but a lot of this is open to possibilities, and a lot of this is actually not that far off. So this is a funny part in the movie, and it's funny because there is some accuracy to it. Okay, I'm tired and I want to get this video up, so good night everyone. Thank you for watching.